Excuse me. Hello, Facebook friends and Legal Roadmap podcast listeners. I am lawyer Autumn Witt Boyd. I'm delighted to be here with you today, talking all about what you need to know legally if you are going to run Facebook ads. Now, I'm going to start off with my standard disclaimer. This episode is going to get a little bit more into some legal nuts and bolts than we sometimes typically do, so it's important that I let you know. Please consider this information not legal advice. I am not your lawyer. I am licensed. I am a lawyer in the state of Tennessee, but I'm not your lawyer unless you hire our firm to work with you one-on-one. So everything is information. If you have specific questions about your business, running Facebook ads, or any other kind of advertising questions, please connect with a lawyer to talk one-on-one and get your specific questions answered. This is going to be just a broad overview, not specific advice for your situation. All right, today I'm going to dive in to 5 things you need to know if you are running Facebook ads for your online business. Now, as you know, this whole season 4 of the Legal Roadmap podcast is directed at course creators. So if you are selling an online course, today is going to be especially relevant to you, but it's also relevant if you own a bricks and mortar business, if you are selling digital products, or even services. So any kind of advertising, this is going to be important information for you and your business. So let's dive right in. The first thing I want to mention, just as kind of an overview comment, is that anytime you are advertising, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Google, whether it's sending out a mailer in the mail, putting up a billboard, putting something on TV, all kinds of different advertising avenues, you now, congratulations, are subject to all kinds of federal, state, and local advertising rules. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a broad overview that's going to give you some things that you need to think about and look into if you are using Facebook ads specifically. And I should mention, Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same parent company. So if you're running Instagram ads, it's similar rules apply. So if I use the word Facebook, kind of assume that I'm talking about Instagram as well, because the same parent company owns those and you are running ads through the same online platform. You actually set them up in the very same place. So similar rules are going to apply. But no matter whether you're using social media ads or advertising in another medium, lots and lots of new rules apply. So if your business has gotten to the point where you are starting to advertise, just be aware that you need to take this seriously, because there could be some pretty big fines and penalties if you are advertising the wrong way. So that is your heads up. This is definitely kind of a more advanced topic, and one where a lot of my clients, this is an area where they will get one-on-one help. This is something that it can be tricky to figure out on your own. So definitely want to be careful in this area. Okay, so the first thing that I want to tell you, the first thing we're going to cover is that you may not know, but Facebook has very specific and lengthy policies for advertising. So this is not really, it's not a state or federal law, but if you want to swim in Facebook's pool, if you want to play on their playground, you have to follow their rules. It is basically a contract that you're entering. They have specific rules that if you want to give them your money and have them show your ads to their users, you have to play by their rules. So if you go, I've got this all pulled up. Let me see if I can access it while we're talking. Always have too many windows open. Okay, so these are available if you just Google Facebook ad policies, you'll find them, but facebook.com/policies/ads is going to be that URL if you are looking for it. And it is way too much for me to even go over all of the Facebook ad policies. I mean, it is pages and pages and pages and pages of policies. But just know that should be your starting point, because there are different rules for different kinds of ads, different kinds of products, whether you're using video ads, graphic ads, text ads, all kinds of different ads, all kinds of different products have very specific rules. So start there. But I'm going to cover a couple of kind of hot topics that you will see when you go there, just to kind of give you some background and help point you in the right direction. And I will mention, I'm recording this on Wednesday, July 24th, and these ad policies change. So if you are doing Facebook advertising a lot, this should be something that you come back to and you check in every month or two to make sure if they have changed something, just to be aware, especially if you've got a big launch coming up or a big new campaign you're working on. You might want to take a look and just make sure that Facebook hasn't changed the rules on you, because you won't always get a notice if there's been a big change. So the first thing is Facebook has rules about certain kinds of content that is totally prohibited, that you are not allowed to advertise about at all. There's actually 30 categories of things that you are not allowed to advertise about. So again, it's way too much for me to go into on this podcast episode, but a couple of high points that I will mention, and that is going to be if you are trying to advertise tobacco products, if you're trying to advertise about drugs, whether prescription or especially illegal drugs, that is just kind of a no-go. That is absolutely not allowed. Health supplements, weapons, if you've got adult products or services, there are certain things that are allowed, certain things that are not allowed. So you definitely are going to want to check that list if your product or service falls into any of those categories, or if you were planning on using ads containing any of those kinds of things, you are definitely going to want to check the list of prohibited content. There's also a long list of restricted content. So not totally prohibited, but very specific rules. And that is going to be around alcohol, dating apps or dating services, gambling. There's a whole long list. Let's see, there's 13 of these. Weight loss products are another thing on their restricted list. So again, if you fall into any of those categories, you just want to be sure that you check to make sure that you are following Facebook's rules before you spend a lot of time, energy, money, either hiring a graphic designer, working on your copy, putting together an ad campaign, and then find out that it's disapproved by Facebook because you have violated their rules. So checking the Facebook ad policies to make sure that you are playing by the rules is your number one thing. I'm going to go into 3 really quick things under these Facebook ad policies, just to give you, again, a little bit of an overview. This is a big one. Facebook does not like ads that focus on personal attributes. So this is kind of hard to explain other than by examples. So if you have text in your ad or on your graphic that refers to someone's race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, age, financial status, they have a whole list of things that they don't really want you focusing on in your ads. So an example that they gave is if you have an ad, meet other Black singles, that is not okay, or meet other seniors. That is not okay. Facebook has decided that they don't want you targeting people that way in your ad copy. Now, of course, when you're choosing who you want to see your ads, you can do some of your targeting that way in your audiences once you're setting up your ads kind of on the back end. But they don't want for you to be actually putting that into your graphics, your text, your copy, your headlines, all of that stuff. So be careful about that. Personal attributes is what they call those. The next category is sexually suggestive. So if you were planning on using a really sexy image of, 2 people in bed together, or someone, a man, and you can only see his abs, or a woman and all you can see is her cleavage, or she's in a very sexual position, you want to be aware that that is generally prohibited, that Facebook just does not want to be showing those things in people's news feeds. And so either using sexually suggestive language or images in your ads, those are generally going to be kicked out. So know that that is an issue. And then the next thing I wanted to mention is if you are in an area where you have products or services that are not appropriate for young children. So alcohol would be one, because you are legally in the United States anyway, not allowed to purchase alcohol until you're 21 years old. If you are trying to target ads for an alcohol product to 13-year-olds, Facebook is not going to like that. So you have to be consistent with who you're targeting, with the age limits or the appropriateness level of your products or services. So just be aware of that. The last thing I wanted to mention is Facebook is very protective of its own brand, its own intellectual property and trademarks. So if you are planning on using the word Facebook or the Facebook logo or anything about Facebook in your ad, let's say you teach a course about how to run Facebook ads or how to use Facebook to build a business. There's very specific rules about how you can abbreviate Facebook, how you can use their logo. So just make sure you double check that if that is going to be involved in any of your ads. Many, many, many rules, too many to cover. All right, the second thing that I wanted to go into that you need to know about if you're running Facebook ads is that Facebook will actually have a human being review all of your ads. I think some of this is also done by an algorithm, but I think they do also have humans involved in the review process. So when you set up your ads in the back end of Facebook and you hit publish, they don't just go live. Facebook will actually review them to make sure that you are following all of their rules. And they will not just check your ad, your image or video. They will also check the landing page that your ad is sending people to. So Facebook ads can't just live on Facebook and not go anywhere. You have to include a URL or a website that you're sending people to. And so Facebook will check to see, does that landing page or does whatever website that you're sending people to, does it match the ad? So if you're talking about a weight loss product, but you're sending people to a site about dating or about parenting or something else totally unrelated, cooking, they're going to find that that's a mismatch. And I think Facebook is really focused on the user experience. And so they're wanting to make sure that their customers, their users, are, if you click on an ad about weight loss, that you're not going to get something totally unrelated, something political or something, totally crazy. So you need to make sure that if your ad talks about something, that your landing page matches that. There are also rules about what kinds of images you can use, as I mentioned, and about if you are putting a graphic in your ad, and it's not just a photograph or a cartoon or something. If there are words on the graphic, there are rules. It's not a black and white, 10% or there's no specific magic percentage, but there is a tool within Facebook that you can check how much of your image is text. Because again, Facebook does not like to show ads that are mostly text in an image. They want people to see actual images because that's what we like to see in our newsfeed. And people are going to get annoyed if the newsfeed turns into just a stream of text. So again, from the user experience, your ads are going to perform better if it's more of an image versus a bunch of text. And if it's too much text, it won't be approved, but it also might be approved, but Facebook just won't show it to many people. So that can be another issue. If you find that you have set up an ad, but it's not getting the views that you expected it to get, it's not getting the reach, that could be an issue. You might want to take a look at your graphic or your video and see if it's really text heavy. That may be the issue. But the most important thing that Facebook will look at, and I have had clients come to me with this as an issue, is if you do not have a privacy policy on the landing page that you're sending people to, Facebook could use that as a reason to reject your ad. So if you are sending people to a website that has no privacy policy, just be aware that that may mean your Facebook ads are not going to run. So having a privacy policy on your website, it's a legal requirement anyway. It's required by California law. And if you are trying to reach anyone in the EU or just are reaching anyone in the EU, whether you're trying to or not, you have to have a privacy policy on your website. It is required by law. And Facebook will enforce that requirement by not running your ads if you are not complying. So I'll give a little plug for our contract template store. If you do not have a privacy policy and you need one, go get one today. It will take you 20 minutes to fill in. It is super easy. And your Facebook ads can be up and running very quickly. That's on our website, awbfirm.com. You just click on the contract templates button. That will get you all set up, but that is 100% required. And like I said, there are people at Facebook that are actually clicking through and checking, or there's a computer, one way or the other, but they are checking, is your landing page set up the right way with a privacy policy? The other thing is the landing page that you send people to has to actually be functional. You can't just make up a URL. I don't know why you'd want to, because hopefully you're trying to accomplish something with your Facebook ads. But you can't send them to a website that's just, an error page or that is not actually a functional web page. So it has to actually be functional. And that web page that you're sending people to also has to comply with all these other policies. So you could run into an issue if you're sending people to a page that has a sexually explicit photo, for instance, or that is actually talking about illegal products when you're not allowed to advertise those on Facebook, or maybe it violates some of the rules about weapons or alcohol, or advertising. Even legal drugs are not allowed to be promoted through Facebook ads. So it's not enough for your Facebook ad to comply with all those policies. The landing page where you're sending people also has to comply with all of those policies. So it can be tricky, but just know your Facebook ad and the landing page are both going to be reviewed. And so if you're having problems getting your ads approved, you might want to look at that. Now, you can appeal the decision if one of your ads is denied. or you can just work on fixing the issue. Facebook will tell you why your ad was rejected, so you do, have a chance to try again, submit it again for approval. It's not the end of the road if it's denied. All right, so that was number 2. Make sure that you are complying with the Facebook policies so that your ads will be reviewed and approved, not denied. All right, the third thing I wanted to talk about is intellectual property. So you guys know that I focus on intellectual property in my practice with the AWB firm, copyrights and trademarks specifically. Facebook and Instagram both have policies requiring that if you post something, you are basically promising that either you created it or you own it or you have permission to use it. So you should not be using any images or text in your ads that you do not own the rights to. So please, for everything that is holy, do not go on Google image search and download a photo for use in your Facebook ads that you do not have the rights to. Because if someone reports that and you are found to be violating someone else's intellectual property, you could lose your Facebook ad privileges if you are violating other people's intellectual property rights. You are only allowed to use things that you either own, that you created, or that you paid somebody to create and your business owns, or that you have permission to use. So you can go on a stock photography site and get an image if you can get a license to use it, but you cannot use other people's stuff. The same thing is true for music, using film clips that don't belong to you in your ads. Stay away from all of that. It's going to violate the Facebook and Instagram policies. And I should mention, it's not just the Facebook ad policies and Instagram ad policies. Facebook and Instagram also have what are called community standards, which is just kind of like a best practices or a rules of the road. And so you also have to comply with those. So be sure to check those out. That's where this rule about only posting things that you own or have permission to use live. Some other things that are in those community standards are things, they don't want you to talk about violence or criminal behavior, inciting people to violence, trying to get people to hurt other people or to, go crazy, do terrible things, promoting or publicizing crime, coordinating harm, talking about things that aren't safe. There's also rules about integrity and authenticity. So, they don't want you misrepresenting things. There's rules about fake news. So definitely check this out as well. That is going to be at facebook.com/community standards, all one word. Or the Instagram link is, it's a terrible link, help.instagram.com, and many, many numbers. So if you Google Instagram community standards, you'll find those right there as well. All right. The fourth thing that you need to know about, and this, we're kind of now stepping out of the Facebook land and into federal and state laws. And there are both federal and state laws prohibiting false advertising. So even though you may think, well, I'm just advertising on Facebook, I don't really have to worry about all the laws. Yes, you do. There are federal and state rules about false advertising. So if you are in a highly regulated area, finance, selling drugs or health products, legal, you want to definitely check your own state's rules for those highly regulated industries. But just in general, something to keep in mind, you want to avoid making false statements and also any deception. So what does that mean? It means if there is something that people should know that would impact their purchase decision, you have to tell them. So for example, if you are promoting a free challenge, but if people sign up, you require them to give you a credit card and you start charging them on the 5th day, unless they take, extraordinary action to opt out, that's not really a free challenge. So you've got to be open and honest about things like that. If you are charging interest on something, you have to, maybe you have, 5 easy payments of whatever, but you're actually charging interest as part of that. You have to tell people about that. If you have a really harsh cancellation policy, you can say 30-day free trial, but to cancel, it's very, very difficult, or it requires you sending something through the mail or going to an office, or, you guys can kind of start to understand the drill. If you've got, kind of secret conditions, fine print type things with your offer, you have to tell people about that. You can't just hide them. That is considered deceptive, even if it's not outright false. But the same can be true. I've had this come up with clients that I do. We do some advertising review for our clients here with the AWB firm. So some of our larger, more traditional clients that are running big ad campaigns, they will send things to us before they publish them and just ask us to take a look at them and make sure that they are complying with all of these rules and regulations. And I had one recently who wanted to publish a survey that they had done. And it said, something like 95% said XYZ. And so my question was, well, was that 95% of everybody in that category or just 95% of people who actually responded to your survey? And it turned out it was respondents, which was a much smaller percentage of, the whole category of people. So we tweaked the ad a little bit so it was clear it was respondents, not everybody. And that was fine. The client was fine with it. So it can be things like that. You just want to make sure that you are being as truthful as possible and that you're not implying something that could maybe be a little deceptive if you don't know all the facts or all the circumstances. So false advertising is something you want to avoid. This can also come into play with if you, especially in the health and wellness arena, you may have seen people trumpeting their results. I lost 100 pounds in 3 days. Absolutely crazy results. And you may see on a website, a little asterisk, results not typical. That is because people are wanting to stay on the right side of these false advertising rules, because it can be deceptive if, you have 1,000 clients and only one person got this result, but that's the one example you're using. It's basically considered deceptive to put forth, the one shining star that got very unusual results and imply that everyone else could get those results. So you want to be careful about anything like that. Anytime you're using examples or telling people about the results they could achieve with your service or products, you want to be very careful not to accidentally be false or deceptive in any of the things that you're saying, any of the statements that you're making in your ads. So there are state and federal rules about false advertising that you need to stay on the correct side of. That's number 4. And then number 5, this is a federal rule. The Federal Trade Commission has rules about endorsements and testimonials, and if you are being compensated to talk about or promote a product or service, you have to do what are called disclosures. So you may have heard me talk about disclaimers for websites. This is a little different. This is a disclosure. You're basically telling people, hey, I'm being paid for this. So you may have seen like hashtag ad on Instagram or hashtag paid. I think there may be some other ones, but those are the two that I see the most often. And that is often used by influencers who are maybe being paid to talk about a product or service. But if you are advertising, you also have to include that. And where I see this come up sometimes in the online course space or digital product space is a lot of my clients promote other people's products or services as an affiliate. And so if you are earning a commission on the sale of a product or service through your affiliate link, with these really big launches, a lot of the affiliates will run their own Facebook ad campaign because maybe they're offering a special bonus or they want people to use their link. And so they're trying to get it in front of more people. You have to disclose in that ad, in your Facebook ad, that you are an affiliate, that you are being paid for recommending the product or service. And you can include like just the short little, hashtag ad, hashtag paid, hashtag sponsored is another one that I remembered. In the ad, and then, have a little bit more information on the page that they click through to, where it says something like, I am an affiliate for this program, but I only recommend services and products that I've tried myself and I think are great, or something like that. I would only recommend something that I have personal experience with, or that I know will get the promised results. So something like that, you could use to still be totally honest, but kind of soften the fact that you are admitting that you have been paid. And the reason we have these rules, the Federal Trade Commission has decided, and there's federal laws and rules on this, is that the federal government has decided they want customers to know if someone has been paid, because that could alter how you're talking about something. If I'm paid to advertise something, I might be a little more enthusiastic, or I might, hopefully no one would just lie. But, I think it is important context when you're making a buying decision and you're relying on someone else's recommendation to know if they've been paid or not. I think that's pretty understandable. All right, so that was number 5, our with disclosures for any kind of affiliate revenue, or if you've gotten free products and you're just talking about them. any of that have to be disclosed. The same is true if you're using endorsements or testimonials in your ads. You might want to include, were they paid to give you an endorsement? Or you might want to say, this person has not been paid to give me an endorsement or to give me a testimonial. This is just their honest feedback. So either way, you might want to include that. Especially if they've been paid, you definitely need to include that. All right, so those are my 5 things that you need to know if you are running Facebook ads. I hope this was helpful. I want you to definitely tune in next week because we're going to be continuing the Facebook ads conversation with my friend Rick Mulready. I did an interview with him and he shares a lot about behind the scenes in his business, how he's built it, some of his legal lessons learned. He was really open and honest, which I really appreciated. And he also gave some good tips for if you're running your own Facebook ads and how he has seen legal interact with his clients and himself when running Facebook ads. So you are not going to want to miss that episode. That is next week. If you're watching this Facebook Live, we've got a little delay. So it's going to be episode 103 going live September 9th. So tune in for that. And I will see you guys again soon. Have a great week.